Hi, I'm John Decker, author of the book and Bible study, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. This video is about Chapter 5, the Deacons. Before we go into Chapter 5, I want to talk a little bit about As Seen Through My Eyes. For this chapter, I had Bill Steins, who is the director of golf at the Scioto Country Club. I've known Bill since I was about 14. And he has been such an instrumental part of my life. Early on, when I went to golf camp, he was one of my counselors. And then when I was became a golf professional and I was making the move from Florida to Ohio, he was very instrumental in that move as well, and gave me a nice reference to get me a job here in Ohio. So I owe a lot to him, and I really appreciate him taking the time. He did a wonderful job in kind of setting up this chapter. The Deacons, the biblical theme is the sharing of time and money. The time and money. And the scripture is John 11:35. And it's very simple. Jesus wept. This is actually the shortest verse in the Bible. 2 words. And I chose this scripture for one very important reason. Because I open up the story of the Deacons with the story about Brian Piccolo, and that is the Brian Piccolo from the movie Brian Song. If you don't know who that is, I would recommend watching that movie. It's an unbelievable movie. It's a true story. Brian Piccolo, who played at Wake Forest and then went on to play with the Chicago Bears. He died at the age of 26, and it talks about his relationship with Gale Sayers, another famous NFL player. But the movie itself, the first time I ever saw my father cry was when I was watching Brian's Song. And so the chapter will start out with that story. And I wanted to put Jesus wept because when you see your father cry, it made me cry. And knowing that Jesus could cry also should be a very empowering to all men, that is okay to show emotion. It's I think a lot of times men grow up with the stereotype that they're supposed to hold in all their emotion. They're not supposed to emote. They're not supposed to express themselves. And they're just supposed to be quiet. And really, this can do more harm than good. So I look at it as crying as more of a sign of strength than it is a sign of weakness. And the reason it's a sign of strength is because when you cry, you're showing your fellow, whoever's with you, or maybe you're by yourself, but you're showing that you're not afraid to express your emotions. And we all go through, difficult times. I mean, if you look at what's going on in the world right now, there's so many things that could make you cry. So that's how I started out the chapter. It moves on to my teenage years when I had the opportunity to go to the Wake Forest golf camp, and I can honestly say that this was probably one of the most exciting times of my life as a teenager because I was finally going to get organized instruction. I'd had a few lessons, and my father had helped me, but I really had what I would call a homemade golf swing. And to be able to go to Wake Forest University, which is one of the top golf schools in the United States, to go to their legendary coach, who's a Hall of Famer, Jesse Haddock, and to have him helped me was just an amazing experience. And I love that story. And I enjoyed writing this chapter because it brought back so many great memories. And again, that's where I met Bill Steins. Also met Jack Nance, who was very instrumental in my career as well, and someone I look up to as well. So there's a lot of people that I met while I was at golf camp that really made it a great experience. But one of the things that I dealt with when I was there is the struggle of the game. Golf is an extremely difficult game. And Jesse Haddock took extra time to spend with me. And as a golf professional, I will never forget this. Because anytime I see students struggle, and I see students struggle every day with the game, I try to give them an extra little bit of time. Maybe I'm walking by and I see them swinging, I'll go up and say something. It doesn't have to be in the lesson. But it made an impact on my life that we can all give extra time. We don't all have money to give out, but we all have time. And so time is very valuable. And I would encourage you to do little things with your neighbor, with your friends, with your family members. Giving them the extra time can make all the difference in their lives, and something that down the road, who knows, you may need help. And so it's very important lesson, and I wanted the chapter to have that feel as well. There's a great story in there about Arnold Palmer. It's a funny story. I'm not going to tell the story because I want you to read about it. I don't want to do it. I think if you read it, you'll enjoy it much more. But it was my first experience meeting Arnold Palmer, and I actually got to meet him through Jesse Haddock, which was a neat experience. And then again, it kind of ends with me coming to Ohio. It gives the reader the kind of the timeline, because now we're in the 5th chapter. The first 4 are more about my early childhood. Now we're moving into my teenage years, but then it jumps ahead and shows how coming to Ohio, a lot of the early seeds that were planted at Wake Forest Golf Camp, how I was able to bear fruit and get my employment here in Ohio. And again, that goes back to Bill Steins and kind of rounds out the chapter. But really, I think that, the Demon Deacons it was one of my favorite chapters to write, again, because it brought back such great memories. I hope you enjoy it. And when you go through this chapter, think about ways that you can give to others, whether it's of time or it may be of money, because sometimes money is what people need more than they need time. But whatever it is that you can give, try to give to others, and I hope you enjoy the Demon Deacons.